Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience, waiting for our people to join the webinar. I'm Ruth Schumann. I'm a program director at NSF in the I-Corps program. And today we're going to talk to you about a special I-Corps program. I'm joined by my colleagues, and I think Bridget Taraga is going to speak to us first today. She's going to give you a little bit of background about this Quantum+X program. And Paul, I don't know if you're speaking today, but I see you've come on camera. Thank you so much for doing that. And Bridget, I'm going to let you go ahead and get started.
Great. Well, welcome. My name is Bridget Taraga. I'm a strategic advisor in the front office of NSF's Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships Directorate. Paul, will you introduce yourself briefly as well?
Sure. I'm Paul Ampadu. I'm leading the Quantum+X initiative.
Great. Well, quantum is today where AI was 8 years ago. This is a phrase that I've heard a number of times in the past few months, including from the Chief Technology Officer of the United States, Ethan Klein, as well as from our boss, the head of the Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships Directorate at NSF. This is the idea that quantum is at an inflection point. There was the National Quantum Innovation Initiative of 2018, which empowered NSF, federal partners like the Department of Energy, NIST, and NASA to launch focused efforts on quantum information science. Many of you may know about this and even be awardees. NSF invests approximately 1,600 quantum information science and technology projects today, which cover more than 260 institutions in 47 states. These projects are led by 2,000 investigators and train over 2,500 graduate students. They include awards made through our Quantum Leap Challenge Institutes program, the National Quantum Virtual Laboratory program, and also our SBIR STTR programs, the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer programs. Additionally, 2 finalists in the current NSF Regional Innovation Engines program competition are focused on advancing quantum information science in their regions and positioning quantum information science as the vehicle to drive regional economic growth and job creation, not to mention breakthrough technology output and scaling. And these important breakthroughs over the past couple of years have brought us to this inflection point. But as you know, there are still several technical hurdles to overcome. But we see a bright future for quantum technology. Quantum computers, for example, could simulate the nearly endless variety of molecular interactions to create new medicines that save lives. Quantum sensors could measure the previously unmeasurable, like the temperature inside a single human cell, allowing pinpoint detection and treatment of diseases. And both quantum computing and quantum sensors could provide oil and gas companies tools, for example, for subsurface imaging that could negate the need for repetitive exploratory drilling, saving millions of dollars and weeks or months per drill site. Realizing this quantum advantage promises to improve human capabilities in the creation of new materials and medicines, the optimization of complex supply chains, and the simulation of complex physical and chemical phenomenon beyond the reach of classical computation. And while we've come a long way since the discovery of quantum mechanisms over 100 years ago, much work remains to be done. And so NSF is launching this Quantum+X I-Corps cohort so that scientists, engineers, and innovators like you can position yourselves better to be part of the solution. And when we talk about Quantum+X, this is where X is either a sector, like the energy sector, finance sector, biotech or pharma sectors, or X is a scientific discipline, for example, chemistry and material science. For this special Quantum+X I-Corps cohort, we want to create the opportunity for you to travel to College Park, Maryland for the September 2026 Quantum World Congress to conduct your customer discovery interviews with industry experts who are there for the events. Creating this cohort of teams, we want to find people who are thinking beyond the can we build it stage and thinking to the can we solve it for X future. We have a hypothesis about the impact of quantum technology and what it could have on sectors or scientific fields, but we know that rigorous benchmark research and innovation is needed to test what will actually be possible for real-world use cases. And so we're hoping that through this I-Core for Quantum+X, you will have the valuable conversations with end users in fields and scientific disciplines who want to be those early adopters of quantum technology, including the technologies, products, and services that you might one day create, pilot, and launch. So we're interested to see where the field is going to be in 3, 5, 8 years, and it could depend upon what you do in this Quantum+X I-Core cohort and what your labs discover and develop in the coming weeks and months. So thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see more of you in this opportunity. Ruth, back over to you, please.
Right. Bridget, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Paul, are you speaking today also?
Sure. It's I can only add a little bit to what Bridget has already said. As we're planning launching some funding opportunities, and we hope that most of you will be able to participate, right? And what we're trying to do that is a little different from what we've done in the past is that we're trying to engage industry so that the solutions the research community provides is more applicable. It's much more realistic, right? And so we're hoping that by involving you and having you engage with the end user industries, you will be able to understand their problems from their perspective, right? And make your solutions a little more realistic. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Paul. That was great. Thank you so much. And a great segue into how they might be able to make some inroads into those industry introductions. I'm going to share my slides. I have a few slides today to talk a little bit more specifically about how to get an application into this I-Core, special I-Core program. So give me just a second to pull up my slides. Oh. All right, I think I've got it, except for it's not, William, how do I get it into presentation mode?
It looks good from our side.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, you're
all
good.
Right, good. Thank you. I can't see it. All right, wonderful. Well, again, I am Ruth Schumann. I'm a program director responsible for the I-Core program. And I have a few slides which talk in general a little bit about the I-Core program in case you're not familiar, and then more specifically about this program. And again, this is a special program just for Quantum+X people out there. So it's different than our regular National I-Core program. I also want to say that I'm joined today by a special guest, Edmund Pendleton, who is the lead instructor for the Mid-Atlantic I-Core Hub, and he will be the lead instructor for this program. So he is here. He is going to join me at the end of my slides to answer any questions. And so I won't take questions in the middle of the presentation, which won't be too long. But if you would put your questions into the chat, we'll read them and either Edmund or I will answer them for you at the end. Maybe Bridget might answer a couple of questions and Paul as well. All right, so let me keep going. Oops. All right, it's not, I jumped too far ahead, so sorry. Interesting. All right, that's the slide I wanted. Thank you. All right, so I wanted to just create a quick highlight slide. I don't have that much information, but there are some differences between our regular I-Corps program, and so I thought it was worth calling them out right at the beginning. So again, this is a special national I-Corps program. We've actually never run a technology-specific cohort before at the national level. Our hubs do this regularly, our I-Corps hubs, but we haven't done it at the national level. And as a matter of fact, the hub that Edmund represents, the Mid-Atlantic hub, they have run a quantum cohort, I believe, in the past. So he comes with that experience as well. But this program is specifically aimed at researchers developing quantum technologies. So again, very, very narrowly focused on this technology area. It's a little different from our national program in that it will be a 5-week program from kickoff to closing. Now, there will be an orientation session a week before the kickoff, but the core part of the program is 5 weeks from kickoff to closing. And again, I want everyone listening to know that all are welcome to submit an application if you are working in the quantum area. And again, that's a little bit different than our national program as well, which requires either NSF lineage or a hub recommendation. Those are waived for this program. And it is open to all, so you may submit an application, and you will be submitting an application like you would for any I-Corps, national I-Corps program, through our application portal. And the deadline for doing this is June 23rd. So that is not very far away, and you'll see why it's so quick in just a moment. But the application deadline's June 23rd, just a little over 2 weeks from today. So I encourage you to submit your application as soon as possible. They will be reviewed right after we get all of the applications in. That is probably right starting at June 24th. And then you will be notified very quickly after that whether you have been accepted into the program. All right, so let me, I know Bridget covered a little bit about the aims for the program, but again, very simply, we really hope that those of you joining this cohort are interested in reducing the risk from translating technologies from your laboratory to the marketplace. And of course, the goal is to evaluate the commercial potential of your very early stage quantum technologies to help you turn these technologies that are based on fundamental research into real world problems. So these are the main reasons why you should be joining or interested in joining this cohort. And I'm going to step back for a moment for those of you who are not familiar with I-Corps, and there might be some of you out there. I'm sure there's some of you that have been in regional I-Corps training programs, maybe even some of you that have been in a national program. So forgive me for going through this, but I just have a couple of slides for those of you that have not, who are not familiar with I-Corps, have not been in an I-Corps program. So we always like to say that I-Corps is a 7-week entrepreneurial training program. Actually, it's a program, we say entrepreneurial training, but it's really very, very specific in that it's a process. I-Corps, that is a process to help you learn how to evaluate the market or commercial potential of your technology. And you do this through a customer discovery process where you actually get out of your lab and talk to people in your industry area. And in this case, you will be talking to some in person at the Quantum World Congress And you could be talking to them virtually too, through Zoom or by phone if you wish to do so. And the goal is to have you meet with potential customers or maybe potential partners or other stakeholders in your industry ecosystem to get more familiar with that ecosystem, with the problem that you hope to solve, the size of that problem, whether it's a big problem, and then really thinking about the viability of your solution to be able to solve that problem. You know, as I start to talk about entrepreneurial training, I'm sure that there's some of you who have already become a little anxious. I want to assure you that this program is really designed for scientists and engineers. This is not a program for people with deep business experience, for example. You can join this program without knowing anything about your potential industry area or having any business or commercial experience. So this program is really, I think, for most of you that are listening in today. All right, let me, whoops, I did that wrong again. All right, so the basics of the I-Corps program are that it's a real-world, hands-on experiential learning using customer discovery, and it's based on a program that was developed by Steve Blank and specifically on his Lean Launchpad course, which he still teaches at Stanford University. He actually helped NSF develop this program, again, specifically designed for scientists and engineers, more than 14 years ago. So it has been around for quite a long time. And I think the main feature of this program really is that it helps you to quickly assess the commercial interest and feasibility of what you're doing. And it does so, again, in that 7-week, in this case, 5-week period. So for the Quantum+X program, this program is really here to help support the translation and commercialization of your quantum technologies. We are really looking for researchers that have developed primarily technologies in fundamental discoveries in science and engineering in the quantum area. And it's, again, there to help address some of the skill and knowledge gaps associated with transforming basic research into a commercial venture, and really help you identify customers, customer segments, their value proposition, and really identifying who is out there that cares about your technology and why. So if, again, in putting it in the framework of quantum technologies, you should be interested in this program if you have been developing a quantum technology, you are beyond that conceptual stage of development, and you want to learn whether your technology has an application in the real world. That is really probably the very best candidate for this program. All right, so I'm going to move on and talk more specifically about the requirements and a little bit more about the specifics of the program itself. So in terms of requirements, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the requirements are a little bit different than the National I-Corps program. The main feature that we want you to have is that you are applying with a quantum technology that you feel is ready for commercial application exploration. That means you are ready to learn whether your technology has interest in the real world. Again, you must be beyond that stage, concept stage of development. And there, I generally think of that as you've developed and tested the technology. Maybe you have an early stage prototype, you have data that says that it's working, and you are ready now to find out whether this has some application in the real world. If that's your stage of development, you are really at the stage that we think works best in the I-Corps program. And again, Bridget talked in great detail about what Quantum+X refers to. We're really looking for those areas in quantum that have a particular interest at the moment, but it is open, and you may submit your quantum technology if you feel it has likely to have a commercial application. So please feel free to do that. And again, regarding your team and previous experience, none is really required. So if you are an NSF lineage team, that is, you have had a previous award from NSF in the quantum area, you are welcome to apply. But you are also welcome if you have not had a previous NSF award, or if you are not affiliated with a university. So really, this is open. I think so. I will tell you, I believe this is going to be competitive. We are just focused on one cohort at the moment. One cohort is 24 teams, so there's limited availability, and we're probably looking for the very best fit in terms of the quantum technology that you're developing. And we do want a wide variety of technologies, so we're not focused on a specific quantum area, but trying to get those researchers that are really ready to move as a next step onto a commercialization path. And we recognize that may be a while for many of you, as Bridget said. We are not looking for someone that's necessarily ready to step into a commercial path, but really to explore what the commercial need is for your technology, and then to help you make some decisions about what your next plans might be. All right, let me move on to the next slide. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about how to apply to this program. The application process, again, is pretty similar to our national I-Corps program. The first thing that you need to do is to actually form a team. This program requires a minimum of 3 people to participate on a team. And we have names for these roles: entrepreneurial lead, technical lead, and industry mentor. However, the descriptions are maybe a little bit different than our usual national I-Corps programs. But if you are going to be the entrepreneurial lead, that means you're going to lead this team, and you probably need to be familiar with the technology, and you also need to have a commitment to commercialization. So the entrepreneurial lead in this program is really the leader of the team, and that as the leader, you will be asked to give presentations every time the I-Corps session meets. You'll report the results from your customer discovery, and you will be answering questions that the instructors will give you throughout this program, but especially during those presentations. So if you're signing up in that role, be aware and be prepared. The technical lead, I think, in this program really should be someone that's been working on the research project with deep technical experience. And they are usually the person that's going to serve as the PI for the I-Corps award as well. Now, if you are a faculty member or someone else listening to me and you think, I'm not sure I am going to be participating in the program with the team, there is still a possibility to serve as a PI, but we call you PI of record, and it means that you would submit the proposal, manage the award, but not necessarily participate in the program. So that is a possibility, though I would tell you, if you have an interest in seeing their technology used in the real world, this is really a fundamental program for you to get that knowledge of your industry area. So I would encourage you to participate. And finally, you need to identify a person in a role called industry mentor. So I think it is best if the industry mentor is someone who is an industry expert, has that business experience, maybe has translational experience, and is independent from the technology that you're developing, and also independent from commercializing the technology. The person is really meant to be an advisor to your team, but they do fully participate. So it has to be someone that has the time to be able to participate in the program with you as a team. And then finally, if you want to add additional team members, that is allowed. You could add a co-EL, you could add a co-TL to the team. Both are allowed. I do not recommend a co-mentor though. So no co-industry mentor, but co-EL, co-TL, perfectly all right. And then once you have formed the team, then you're ready to submit your application through the NSF I-Corps portal. I did put the link to the portal on this slide, and you may feel free to submit your applications starting today, so I'm really ready for you in our system. And you will be asked to provide information about your team members. Please provide a 5-sentence biographical description that's relevant to this project for each team member. And then there are 3 paragraphs describing your project. So the first paragraph is a technical paragraph describing, please describe your technology, then describe what you see as the problem that you're going to solve, the commercial application that you might envision and that you are interested in exploring in I-Corps, and then finally what your next steps might be. What will you do with the information that you gain from the I-Corps program? And again, they are just meant to be simple paragraphs. We don't need a lot of explanation, but please give us enough so that as we're reviewing your application, we'll understand your team a little bit better, understand your goals, and understand your technology. All right, so let me move on and talk about the next step. So once you've submitted your application and are under consideration, I want to remind you of a couple of things. When you are selected for this program, you are going to need to commit to several program requirements. Probably, I think the hardest one for all teams is the fact that all team members are required to attend all I-Corps sessions and meetings. And again, that does include your industry mentor. So as you're thinking about applying, you are going to have to carve out the time necessary to participate in the program. And it is going to be pretty intense. As you can see from the next series on the slide, there are quite a few hours of time that you're going to need to commit to. And I've listed them here. So again, there's an orientation, there's a kickoff, which is 3 days. You will go to this in-person conference. And oh, by the way, we haven't done anything in person in the National I-Corps program since before the pandemic. And so to me, this is going to be very, very exciting. I hope that it's very exciting to you as well. But you will need to plan to be at this conference. It's a 3-day conference, and you will have travel time, both going and returning. So please plan that into the schedule. There are also 2 weekly web sessions. They're about 2 hours each. And then there's a closing. And the closing is like our typical I-Corps closing. You will have a half day to get ready for that closing. And then all teams will present the information that they have learned during this program. in a final presentation. So very exciting. And you will also be meeting with instructors. So part of the time there might be mandatory office hours, typically during the kickoff, probably during your in-person conference as well. You'll be meeting with the instructors of the program, and so plan accordingly for that time commitment also. And of course, probably the big time commitment is doing the interviews themselves. So we're going to ask you for this program to do a minimum of 50 interviews. I would encourage you to do more. The more interviews you do, the more information you will have, but a minimum of 50 interviews. So you have to allow for time to identify people to interview. And of course, you're going to get a lot of that information at the conference itself, and you will be doing a lot of the interviews at the conference, but you may realize that you need to do additional interviews. You might do those in the weeks following the conference and seek information during those report outs with the instructors during that time frame. So again, scheduling interviews, identifying people to interview, and actually doing the interviews is going to be a part of this 5-week program as well. All right, so if you are accepted to this program, the very first thing that you will hear from us is that you have been invited to submit a proposal to NSF. And for participating in this program, you will receive a $50,000 award. The requirements for spending this may be found in the current I-Corps team solicitation. This is where this information has come from. I would keep in mind that the participants in a national I-Corps program are not required to travel. So as you are planning your 5 weeks, you must keep in mind that you do have a travel requirement, and you want to make sure that you've allowed yourself enough funding to be able to meet the requirement of the program in terms of travel. But you can see stipends are allowed for ELs, TLs, and even industry mentors. And NSF will collect a $10,000 participation fee. We do allow indirect costs, but they are capped at $5,000. So a little bit different than a typical NSF award. All right, here are the program dates and the schedule. And I'm sorry, this looks a little bit small, but first, all times are in Eastern time. And I apologize to those of you who might be participating on the West Coast. You will be getting up a little bit early in the morning for a couple of these sessions. But the very first session, again, is the onboarding session, 3-hour onboarding on September 9th. There you will learn a little bit about how to use the software tools that we provide for this program. And you will also be doing other things like introductions during that time. And then a week later, you'll be at the kickoff. And during the kickoff, you'll find there will be homework for you to have done before you arrive at the kickoff, and you will also, again, be doing presentations at every session during the kickoff. And here's the really great opportunity to get some instruction and practice on doing customer interviews, and it's all going to be in preparation for the conference that you will attend the following week, the Quantum World Congress, which will be held, as Bridget said, at the University of Maryland. You can Google Quantum World Congress and find the information for this Congress. And of course, this will be an in-person event. So all of you will be expected to travel to the conference as a team and attend this World Congress with the idea of especially conducting customer interviews. And then following the World Congress, there will be two more sessions. And these are here in part to help you identify important things in the results from that customer discovery, maybe do additional customer discovery, but really to help you get that final information that you might want to have before the end of the program. And then on October 15th and 16th is the close. The first half day is preparation for your final presentations, which will be on October 16th. Right. And that is the end of my slides. I have just a couple things I want to talk about for the other resources. So of course, you're going to use the I-Core application portal. We call it an executive summary application portal to submit your application. And again, that application is due on June 23rd, so not very far away. And you may use the resources on the I-Core Teams website. That's the NSF I-Core Teams website. And you will be using the I-Core Teams solicitation 25-549 for submitting your proposal. However, I do want to point out there are some differences in especially the requirements for this program. You may ignore those and follow the requirements that I've laid out today for the quantum cohort. But the proposal preparation will be the same. And you will, I believe we're going to post this a video of this presentation today on the I-Core Teams website. So in case you want to go back and re-listen to parts of it, you will be able to find it there. All right, I think that is it. We're